Today is 7th of May 2025. Yesterday I talked about the two factors to improve in our meditation: practicing respectfully and practicing continuously. These two are the main factors to improve, to progress in our meditation, or to sharpen the energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. As we practice continuously with unbroken mindfulness and with respect, mindfulness which hasn't developed yet, it develops. The concentration which hasn't developed develops, and the wisdom that hasn't developed also develops. And the mindfulness, concentration, wisdom which have already developed will be cultivated, sustained, and will be fulfilled by practicing in respect and practicing continuously. A moment of energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom may not be seen strong, but when we put them together, they become amazingly strong. Like a single swing thread or a single cobweb may not seem strong, but when we put together many cobwebs or swing threads, they become amazingly strong. Similarly, a moment of mindfulness, of course we can put energy also. So a moment of energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom may not seem strong, but when we put together, they become amazingly strong. That is also why there should not be gap and intervals in between two energy, in between two mindfulness, in between two concentration, and in between two wisdom. They must be connected each other. From the very first day, we applied initial energy in order to absorb the presently arising object. Initial energy is the energy applied in order to absorb the presently arising object. As we apply continuously, energy becomes stronger. Energy slowly becomes stronger. In detail, if I have to say, On the very first day, when we started to observe rising as rising, that energy was not so strong. Then we applied second energy to observe falling, then next rising, next falling. Continuously we applied energy. Hence, the energy became stronger. Second day energy is stronger than the energy on first day. Third day energy is comparatively stronger than the energy on first and second day. So in this way, every day energy is getting stronger. And that energy permits to develop mindfulness to arise. That energy permits to arise the mindfulness. Of course, energy not itself, but along with accurate aiming. So these two mental factors permit to arise the mindfulness. When energy gets momentum, then mindfulness develops. And again, we repeatedly develop mindfulness. At the beginning, mindfulness is also not strong enough. The very first mindfulness is not strong comparing to the second one. And second one is not strong comparing to the third one. So again, second mindfulness is stronger than first one. Third mindfulness is stronger than the second one. Again, the mindfulness that we develop in the first day, on second day, is stronger than the mindfulness we develop on the first day. In this way, mindfulness also getting stronger and stronger. When mindfulness develops and mindfulness gets stronger, we come to know many objects. At the beginning, it's even hard to observe an object. But as mindfulness develops, it becomes easier. And when mindfulness gets stronger, mind becomes wider also, broadened. It becomes broad. It means now mind is capable to observe or to recognize more than one object at one moment. At one moment, yogis realize even 2 objects, 3 objects, 4 objects, 5 objects, and so on. Like when we observe rising and falling, at the beginning it is even hard to catch the rising and falling, to see the nature involving in rising, falling. But as the mindfulness deepens, it's become easier. It's become easier to catch rising, falling, and to know the sensation. Again, at the beginning, maybe one sensation. Later, in single rising, 2 sensation, 3 sensation, 4 sensation. Or maybe when you observe rising, falling, you might be knowing, sensations happening in other parts of the body. You might be knowing the subconsciousness at background, like thinking is there, planning is there, analyzing, judging. So many things happening at background. So why you know in this way? Because the presence of mindfulness. That is why at interview I have mentioned yogis. When you come to see, when you come to recognize many thinking and thoughts, there is nothing wrong. You don't need to worry about that. When we don't have idea, we might think, is there something wrong? Because you might feel your mind is even wondering more thinking and thoughts are arising, even feeling more than before. So there is nothing wrong with that. Because mind is something which is not easy to discern. Mind is something which is profound, mysterious, hard to see, hard to know, hard to discover, because it has no form. At least physical objects have form, but mental objects do not have form. It doesn't have pattern. It doesn't have pattern. And mind and mentalities appears and disappears faster than physical objects, 17 times faster. So means mind and mentalities are even more difficult to discover, more difficult to see, because mind and mentalities are even more profound and mysterious, hard to discern, hard to discover. So that's why if you discern many thinking thoughts, if you notice many thinking and thoughts, no need to worry about that. No need to worry about that, because you might be seeing the thinking and thoughts, the mental objects that you haven't seen yet. Even subtle thinking and thoughts, subtle mind and mentalities. Subtle mind and mentalities you might be seeing because of good mindfulness. So that's why there is nothing wrong, there is nothing to worry about that. And as you know, as yogis know, when mindfulness gets better, you come to know the intention mind as well, especially in the daily activities. You come to know the intention mind. You would see the having intention mind in each action, in each action. Later you will see the intention mind in subtle, intention mind and the mentalities in subtle actions. Right now you may be seeing or knowing the intention mind when you are about to sit, when you are about to stand up, when you are about to stretch, bend, your hand when you are about to close, open the door. These are gross activities, obvious predominant activities. But there are minor activities are there, and there are the intention of the minor activities, small activities, like blinking of the eyes. There is, there is the intention to blink. Later you will discover even the intention of the minor action. Blinking of the eyes, wanting to move eyeballs from right to left, left to right, up to down, down to up. Intention to swallow saliva, intention to move the fingers. So even you will know the intention of the minor action. And knowing in this way is good, because it is possible, it is only possible when your mindfulness gets better and better. Your mindfulness gets better and better. That is also why we ask yogis to note the intention mind. To note the intention mind starting from obvious or gross action. Slowly you can add the intention of the other subtle actions as well. And because it is really helpful, noting the intention mind is really helpful to develop the discriminating knowledge into mind and matter. The more you know the intention mind and the action, it will be helpful to develop the knowledge, the discriminating knowledge into mind and matter. Later, it will help you to develop the knowledge into cause and effect, because you will discern, oh, intention mind as a cause, then action as a result. So again, it is really helpful to develop the knowledge into cause and effect. And right now, it is really helpful to control your physical actions. To control your physical action. When you are capable to note the intention, it is really helpful to control your action, bodily action. Yes, later you will be able to note the intention of the verbal action, intention of the mental action as well. So it is again helpful to control your physical, verbal, and the mental action. Buddha mentioned in a discourse that whenever we are about to do a bodily action, it is better to reflect whether you are going to, the action that you are going to do is beneficial, suitable or not suitable, beneficial or not beneficial. Suitable, not suitable, beneficial, not beneficial for yourself and for others. It is good to reflect. And on reflection, when you discover that bodily action that you want to do is not suitable and not beneficial, then it is not fit to do. Then you should not do that. Similarly, when you are about to speak, similarly, when you are about to think, you have to reflect in that way. The speech that you are going to say, speak, the thinking that you are going to think is suitable, not suitable, beneficial, or not beneficial. And by reflecting, when you discover not beneficial, not suitable, then you should not do that. But by reflecting, when you discover it is suitable, beneficial, then you may do that. If you couldn't reflect before doing, then you should reflect at least when you are doing that action. When you are doing by body, when you are speaking, and when you are thinking, it is better to reflect that action, whether the action that you are doing, speaking, thinking is suitable or not suitable, beneficial or not beneficial. If it's not, then immediately you should give up. If it is suitable and beneficial, then you may continue. And again, if you couldn't reflect while you are doing, at least minimum you should reflect immediate after when you are done. Having done, you have to reflect. What you have done is suitable, not suitable, beneficial, not beneficial. If it is suitable and beneficial, next time you can do it again. But if not, then next time in future, you should never do it again, because it will cause for your suffering. So this is what mentioned in the text. People do not reflect their physical, verbal, and the mental actions before doing, while doing, and after doing. In fact, they even don't know what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, what is suitable, what is not suitable. That is also one of the reasons the sufferings of the people, and in future they feel guilty. They remorse when they have like a miserable situation because of those actions that they have done in the past. So that's why here noting the intention mind is really beneficial. Noting the intention mind is really beneficial in order to, when you return in your daily life, this noting intention mind may help you to reflect in that way. So it's really beneficial. You would be able to control your physical, verbal, and mental actions. So that is also why it is good to note the intention mind. And it is possible when your mindfulness gets stronger by observing continuously, by observing respectfully. Again, by observing continuously, by observing respectfully, when mindfulness gets momentum, then that mindfulness permits to arise concentration. You don't need to do anything to, to generate, to develop concentration. Mindfulness develops. Mindfulness permits the concentration to develop. Once I have mentioned, when mindfulness is there, mind is well protected because mindfulness function as the protector or the guard or as a doorkeeper of the mind stream. It doesn't permit the unwholesome mind and the mentalities to enter. It doesn't admit. It blocks, it defends. Hence, mind remains protected. Whenever mindfulness is present, mind is protected. Hence, mind is free from impurities, defilements. So freedom is there. And when freedom is there, then calmness is also there. Because of having freedom, mental bliss, mental comfort also arise or develops. Mental joy and mental bliss. And that mental bliss, that mental comfort is the nearest, is the proximate cause to develop the concentration. In Pali, in text, it is mentioned as Sukha Badatthana. Sukha Badatthana means mental comfort or the mental bliss is the nearest cause to develop the concentration. And the concentration that develops is the momentary concentration. In Vipassana meditation, we develop momentary concentration. Moment to moment. When mind sinks into, penetrates into the object, then concentration. When mind penetrates, sinks into the object, then concentration. So in this way, when momentum of mindfulness develops, then again concentration generates. Concentration generates. And when concentration generates, then concentration dispels the impurities again momentarily, obsessive defilements. The second type of kilesa, transgressive kilesa, obsessive kilesa, latent kilesa. The second one is obsessive. And only concentration can dispel that obsessive kilesa. So as concentration develops, as the mindfulness permits the concentration to develop, then it dispels the impurities momentarily. So this is how the continuous, unbroken, hard-working permits the mindfulness, then unbroken mindfulness permits to develop concentration. That is what I mentioned yesterday. We have to practice continuously with unbroken mindfulness. So, concentration. What is the nature of the concentration? Concentration has the nature of non-dispersal or non-dissipation, non-dissipating or non-scatteredness is the nature of concentration. That means when concentration is present, mind does not disperse. Mind does not disperse. Mind does not dissipate. Mind does not scatter. That is the nature of concentration. And the function of the concentration is unifying. Unifying is the function of the concentration. It unifies, it gathers, it collects. It collects the co-arising mental factors and the mind into an object. That means mind never arise alone. A good number of mental factors arise along with mind. So when concentration is present, when concentration arises, that concentration will collect or unifies our mind and the mental factors into an object. Right here we can say into the meditative object that we are observing. If we observe rising and falling, then concentration unifies all the mind and the mental factors into that rising object. If it is falling, then it unifies, gathers or collects into falling. Then into next rising, next falling. If it is mental object, is the object to observe, then into that mental object. If it is sensation, if it is sensation, bodily sensation, then into that bodily sensation. If it is the movement of the leg, then into the movement of leg. If it is the day-to-day performance, then into that day-to-day performance, concentration unifies or collects all the mind and the mentalities. So mind and mentalities have no chance to scatter, no chance to disperse, no chance to dissipate, because concentration has well collected those mentalities. So this is the function, and the example is like when I put water into cement, cement become collected, it become unified. Similarly, concentration unifies, concentration gathers the mind and the mentalities. And the manifestation, there are two manifestations of concentration. The first one is the stillness or peacefulness, calmness is the manifestation of samadhi. Like the flame of the candle in windless place. The flame is very much calm and still. Similarly, when concentration is present and concentration is there in our mind, mind remains calm because it is not wavered, scattered by the impurities. Impurities are not present, or obsessive impurities are not present. That it dispels momentarily the impurities, obsessive kilesas. So kilesas are not present. Kilesas are not present. That's why mind is not wavering. Hence, mind is still, calm, and peaceful. So again, I would like to repeat, a moment of concentration may not seem strong, but when you put together, then the concentration becomes amazingly strong, and as a result, you come to feel the strong peace, the greater peace, the greater calmness. If it is just for a moment, for only 1 second, after that, you don't continue, you don't cultivate, you don't sustain, you don't develop continuously the concentration, then you may not enjoy that peacefulness, calmness, or stillness. But when you develop moment to moment, continuously, then like it is putting together, and you may enjoy the greater peace, greater coolness, peacefulness, and stillness. That is the manifestation, the first manifestation of concentration. The second manifestation is jnana. Pachupatthana means when concentration develops, you come to discern the natures, the individual natures, then conditional natures, then common natures or the characteristics, and then inside natures you will see, you will discover, then after you will discover, you will develop the knowledge. And development of the knowledge is the manifestation. Because yogis realize, oh, I am knowing, I am developing I am developing knowledge due to concentration. So that's why knowledge is the second manifestation of the concentration. And about the proximate cause, I have already mentioned mental comfort is the proximate cause of the concentration. And to develop mental comfort, we have to develop mindfulness. If it hasn't developed yet, and if it has already developed, we have to build up. We have to build up mindfulness again and again. We have to give momentum. And as the mindfulness gets momentum and as the mindfulness gets stronger, then that will help to, that will contribute to develop mental comfort, and then concentration develops. So in this way, concentration develops in our mind. So this is about the concentration. And concentration again permits to develop wisdom. Again, when concentration gets momentum, when you give momentum by by hard working, moment to moment, continuously, then that concentration permits to develop the knowledge, that is jnana, vipassana knowledge. We will talk coming days about knowledge, of course. So in this way, when we practice continuously with great respect, with utmost respect and care, the good qualities, the good mental qualities, energy, mindfulness, then concentration. And when concentration is there, of course, slowly, equanimity also develops. There are so many good qualities develops. These good qualities are like a good armies to fight with the bad armies. Once I have mentioned, meditation is like a battle between the good and evil. So we are collecting, we are developing the good mental qualities. And among those good mental qualities, here I would like to talk two more good qualities. And they are the hiri and ottappa. Hiri means moral shame, and ottappa means moral fear. The moral shame and the moral fear, they are very important mental qualities. In order to stay away from the unwholesomenesses, in order to keep oneself away or in distance, keep in the distance from the unwholesomeness. So when I will talk a bit in detail, you will understand. So hiri is moral shame. So to understand the moral shame, you have to understand first lack of moral shame, that is ahiri. Ahiri means being shameless while doing misconducts, bodily misconducts, verbal misconducts, and the mental misconducts. When you don't feel shy, when you don't feel shameful, when you don't feel embarrassed, that is lack of moral shame. And the example is given like when pig consume the feces, that pig does not feel any shame. Similarly, when mind commits or when we commit bodily unwholesome action, mental unwholesome action, verbal unwholesome action, mental unwholesome action, we have, there is no presence of shame. Shamelessness is there. So lack of moral shame to perform the unwholesome actions or the misconducts is the ahiri. And opposite of that is the moral shame. to do unwholesome actions by body, by speech, and even by mind. Being shameful. And the second is lack of the moral fear. The opposite of that is lack of moral fear. When you perform the unwholesome actions or the misconducts, if when you are not afraid of the bad consequences, then that is lack of moral fear. That is lack of moral fear. But when you are afraid of the bad consequences of those physical, verbal, and mental misconducts, then there is moral fear is there. Moral fear is there. And by practicing meditation, this moral shame and the moral fear, they develop. As you improve in meditation, they become stronger and stronger. They become stronger and stronger. When they become really strong, you will even feel shameful when kilesas arise, even for a second. You will feel shameful, I repeat. You will feel shameful and you will be afraid of kilesas arising even for a second. You will not want to have the kilesas even for a second. So that is the development of the moral shame and the moral fear. And when you develop such powerful, strong moral shame and the moral fear, now you take care very much in your practice, because you don't want kilesas even for a second. So in order to prevent those kilesas not to arise, so you become very careful. You become very mindful. You become very respectful to practice. And you will try your best to make your mindfulness more continuous, unbroken. So that's why this moral fear and the moral shame is also very much important. Very much important, because in daily life, in order to not to do unwholesome actions by body, by speech, and even by mind, in order to not to do the unwholesome actions, this moral shame and the moral fear is needed, because it is these two mental factors are mentioned as the white mental factors. When you go under sunlight, you wear the white shorts, white clothes, because it reflects the sunlight. It doesn't absorb. But when you wear black color, then it absorbs the sunlight or heat. So these two mental factors, moral shame and the moral fear, are called white Dhamma, or the white mental factors, because they don't absorb the unwholesomenesses. When you lack these two mental factors, and when lack of moral shame and moral fear are there, they absorb the unwholesomenesses. So that is why these two mental qualities are very much needed in our life in order to not to do unwholesomenesses. So that is these two mental factors also we develop. So just imagine if a yogi does not want the kilesas even for a second, even he or she doesn't want kilesas, arising kilesas in his or her mind, even for a second, how he or she will perform the unwholesome actions by body and speech. Yeah, will not. Because he or she is being shameful and fearful of kilesas which are arising even for a second. So he or she will definitely not perform the unwholesome actions by body and speech, while he is not even performing by mind. So that is why it is very important to develop these two mental qualities, but you don't need to do anything to develop these two mental factors. They develop by themselves as you improve in your meditation. As your mindfulness gets momentum and concentration develops, and concentration gets momentum, wisdom develops, they also develop by themselves. So these two are the important two mental qualities in meditation in our life. They are known as the protector to guardian mental factors of the world. Lokapala Dhamma we call Lokapala, guardian of the world. To protect yourself, to protect others. So, two mental factors. Okay, now we are talking about the samadhi. Then samadhi permits to develop the concentration, permits to develop the wisdom. So before talking about the wisdom, although we are trying our best to not to give permit for the kilesas to arise, there are still few unwholesome mental factors which may hinder, which may disturb in your practice by arising often in your mind. They may hinder your practice, they may block your practice to not to progress. To not to progress, to not to develop the wisdom. So they are called hindrances of the mind. They are called hindrances of the mind. They hinder your practice. They hinder your practice. If the mindfulness is not yet developed, they may hinder to not to develop mindfulness. If mindfulness has already developed, then not to sustain the mindfulness, they may hinder. If concentration has not yet developed, to develop the concentration, they may hinder. If concentration has developed, to hinder, to not to sustain the concentration. And if wisdom not yet developed, to hinder, to not to develop wisdom. And if wisdom has developed, to weaken the wisdom. These hindrances may halt, may block, may pollute your mind. So that's why they are called hindrances. So definitely we will talk tomorrow how these hindrances hinder in our practice. And by again dispelling these hindrances, how mind become crystal clear, and then how it becomes easier to see the true natures as they really exist. And seeing the true nature as they really exist is the development of the knowledge, jnana. So we will talk in coming days. So for today, may you all be able to practice continuously with unbroken energy, unbroken mindfulness, with unbroken concentration. By practicing continuously, may you be able to develop the wisdom in order to know the true natures, especially to see the nature of impermanence, suffering, and selflessness.